The Galaxian High Council maintained a database of all known spacecraft in the explored sectors. Classification: D7 vessels, primitive pre-FTL crafts with minimal armaments, were rarely worth monitoring. So when sensors detected the small human vessel drifting at the edge of the Arcturus system, Commander Exceltor dismissed it with a flick of his tertiary appendage. "Another Earth relic," he muttered to his subordinate. "Probably one of their early probes. Mark it as debris and continue the patrol." Lieutenant Veshra hesitated, her sensory filaments rippling with unease. "Commander, our scans indicate rudimentary power signatures. It appears to be maintaining minimal life support." "Impossible," Exceltor scoffed. "Humans haven't ventured beyond their local planetary cluster in physical form. Their fragile biology can't withstand extended space travel." "Nevertheless, Commander Protocol suggests." "Protocol wastes resources, Lieutenant. We have an entire battle group to coordinate for the Emperor's arrival. One human artifact hardly warrants our attention." The Galaxian fleet continued its formation exercises, 12 warships executing precise maneuvers that had made them the undisputed military power in 3 sectors. Their sleek, crystalline hulls gleamed against the backdrop of Arcturus Prime, the jewel of their latest territorial acquisition. Aboard the human vessel, the Perseverance, Dr. Eleanor Chen floated in a suspension chamber, her body preserved in a semi-conscious state. The ship's IA monitored her vital signs while running continuous diagnostics on the vessel's systems. "Status report," Eleanor whispered, her voice barely audible as the stasis fluid drained from her chamber. "Revival sequence complete," Dr. Chen, ARIA, responded. "You have been in suspension for approximately 17.3 Earth years. We have arrived at the coordinates specified in your contingency protocol." Eleanor's fingers trembled as she accessed the navigation console. 17 years. Longer than expected, but the calculations had always been estimates. What mattered was that they'd arrived. "And our cargo?" "Integrity maintained at 99.8%. All systems nominal." Eleanor nodded, her gaunt face reflecting in the console's display. The mission parameters were clear: reach the predetermined coordinates, assess the threat, and deploy the countermeasure if necessary. The Galaxian expansion had been monitored for decades from Earth, their systematic conquest of inhabited worlds documented through long-range observation. Humanity, still confined to its solar system, had debated intervention. Some argued for diplomatic outreach, others for isolation. But a small faction, Eleanor's faction, had advocated for a more definitive solution. "They're here," she murmured, studying the sensor readings. 12 warships. Exactly as predicted. "The fleet appears to be conducting standard maneuvers," ARIA informed her. "They have scanned our vessel, but categorized us as debris." Eleanor allowed herself a grim smile. Their arrogance was always going to be their weakness. "Initiate Phase 2. Aboard the Galaxian flagship, an alert chimed softly at a monitoring station. The technician frowned, recalibrating the sensors before reporting to the commander. "Sir, the human vessel is showing increased energy output." Xeltor barely looked up from the battle plans he was reviewing. "Probably automated systems cycling. Nothing to concern yourself with." "Sir, the signature is unusual. It doesn't match any known human technology in our database." This time, Exceltor paused. "Elaborate." "The energy pattern appears to be creating some form of field. It's expanding rapidly." Lieutenant Veshra approached, her posture reflecting growing concern. "Commander, I recommend raising shields as a precaution." Xeltor hesitated. Raising shields during a ceremonial exercise would reflect poorly on his command, suggesting nervousness over a derelict alien craft. The Emperor would not be impressed by such caution. "Continue monitoring," he ordered instead. If the field approaches within 10 units of our formation, then we'll—" He never finished the sentence. On the Perseverance, Eleanor activated the final sequence. The ship's modest exterior belied its true purpose. It wasn't a vessel of exploration or diplomacy. It was a delivery mechanism. Quantum field stabilized. ARIA announced. Cascade initiation in 3. Eleanor closed her eyes. For Earth. The detonation wasn't explosive in the conventional sense. There was no blinding flash, no shockwave. Instead, reality itself seemed to warp around the human vessel. A sphere of distortion expanded outward, engulfing space as it grew. Where it touched the Galaxian ships, matter simply unraveled. The magnificent warships began to disintegrate, their crystalline structures dissolving into constituent atoms. No alarms sounded, no distress calls were sent. The dissolution was too rapid, too complete. 12 vessels, the pride of the Galaxian Empire, reduced to dispersing particles in moments. Only the flagship survived long enough for XL Tor to comprehend what was happening. As his ship disintegrated around him, he received a transmission from the human vessel, a simple text message in universal code. From humanity, with regards. We may be primitive, but we are not defenseless. The quantum field collapsed back upon itself, leaving nothing but scattered atomic particles where the mighty fleet had been. The Perseverance drifted silently amid the debris, its purpose fulfilled. Eleanor stared at the emptiness on her view screen, feeling neither triumph nor remorse, only the weight of necessity. Humanity had developed the quantum disassembler as a last resort, a weapon so terrible it could never be used except in the most dire circumstances. Transmission incoming, ARIA announced. Multiple sources. Galaxian High Command is demanding explanation. Eleanor nodded slowly. Send them the package. The package was a comprehensive data file, evidence of Galaxian atrocities across dozens of worlds, the specifications of the weapon that had just destroyed their fleet, and a simple message Earth wished to be left alone, but possessed more such weapons and would not hesitate to deploy them if threatened. It was a gamble. The Galaxians might retaliate with their full might. Or they might, for the first time in their expansionist history, choose to avoid a conflict. Hours passed as Eleanor waited, suspended between dread and hope. Finally, ARIA broke the silence. Response received. Translating, the message was brief, almost terse in its formality. The Galaxian High Command acknowledged receipt of the data. They proposed a non-aggression pact and requested formal diplomatic relations. Eleanor exhaled slowly, tension draining from her body. There would be negotiations, treaties, perhaps eventually true peace. But most importantly, there would be respect. Humanity had earned it in the most terrible way imaginable by demonstrating the capacity for destruction that the Galaxians themselves had long wielded against others. Set course for home, ARIA, she said quietly. We have much to report. As the Perseverance turned toward Earth, the void where the Galaxian fleet had been continued to shimmer with dispersed particles, a solemn monument to the day when the mighty learned to fear the seemingly weak, when arrogance gave way to wisdom, and when humanity announced its presence to the stars not with a whisper, but with a decisive act that would echo across the galaxy for generations to come. The ignored human vessel had changed everything.